Welcome back, explorers. I'm David, that's Wesley, and this is the Trailcast.
The weekly show that gets so far off track, you'll have to stick around to see just where we end up.
Your show's not exactly streets ahead, know what I mean?
No, I don't think I...
Well, you're not alone in this case. Rob, stop trying to coin the phrase streets ahead.
Trying? Coined and minted. Been there, coined that. Streets ahead. It's verbal wildfire.
Does it just mean cool, or is it supposed to be like miles ahead?
Well, if you have to ask, and your street's behind.
Alright, so, as you probably guessed, today we are talking about Community. And we have another special guest.
We got another guest too. David, you're springing all these things on me. I need to know these things ahead of time.
Okay, I sprung this on you months ago, so you should have been prepared. But, everyone welcome
Delayed
my
reaction.
brother... Okay, fine. Everyone welcome my brother, Robert. Say hi, Robert.
Hey, Robert!
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Okay.
Wow, you sound so fake.
Give him time, he's new to all this.
I mean,
Well, let's face it.
I wasn't
Let's face it,
exactly
we're
jumping out of
new
my
to all
pants for him to come on, so, No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I can leave.
Jumping out of your
No,
pants?
I need you and David to...
Yeah, stay.
It was a...
Keep your pants on, Wesley.
Joke's on you, I'm not wearing pants. No, I actually am. I'm actually wearing pants for once. It's okay. We can move on. It's okay to move on.
Fair enough.
Cool. Yeah.
So, Rob, why don't you kick us off here, and why don't you just give us a basic overview of the show, just for anyone who hasn't seen it?
So yeah, so Community is a show about the characters of Greendale Community College. That starts out kind of like, I don't know, following like typical sitcom tropes, and then kind of becomes its own thing with the meta humor and references and having. I mean, they did a Die Hard episode. They did an animated episode that's where they're in a G.I. Joe.
They're all over the place.
Yeah, Community's humor is it's very unique, and I love it. I love how meta Community gets. In fact, I was actually watching a couple of I didn't have time to finish the whole series, but I was watching a couple of my favorite episodes earlier, and one of my favorite episodes is Remedial Chaos Theory. We'll get more into episodes later on, but I forgot just how meta that show gets at points.
It's
The
something.
thing-
So sorry, Wesley.
No, go ahead.
So I've been I tried to rewatch all of it for this. I only got about I'm almost done through season 3. And something I've really picked up on is the writers talk to the audience a lot through Abed.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's self-awareness of the show too, and because Abed looks at life through TV and movies, so it's almost like he's self-aware he's in a TV show.
Mm.
Yeah, I just watched. I don't know if I watched it today or not, but I think I'm trying to think what the plot was. But the makes a comment how like Jeff says, this isn't TV, this is real life, and Abed's like, yeah, I know it's real life. It's like because TV makes sense, and he goes and he makes sense through the world or of the world through TV, because in his mind, TV makes sense, whereas the world is just kind of all over the place and hard to understand.
I forget which episode. I did literally just watch that episode too, but I forget which episode it is.
Thinking about it's the first episode back from it's season 2, episode 1 when they come back, and I think what's going on is, if I'm remembering right, is when Jeff is confronted with the fact that he kissed Annie after Britta confessed her love to him.
Right, because Britta and Jeff were both pretty much calling each other's bluff, and they were like pretty much trying to, or about to get married because they were calling each other's bluff.
Yeah.
It was just which I think that's a good segue into some of the characters
And
here.
then he punched him.
Yeah, but I think that's a good segue into some of our characters here. So let's start off by talking about Jeff, because he is the main character of the show. Like the first couple episodes, follow him, follow his story. So let's just kind of talk about Jeff real quick. So, one of y'all want to start us off, or?
Well,
douchebag lawyer trying to get it on with all the ladies.
Yeah. Well, to what Wesley was just talking about with, sorry.
No, you're good.
With what you were just talking about with like Abed, talking about TV, like TV shows make sense. They have structure. He also said something about TV shows have likable leading men.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting, because it's kind of like Jeff being at least at the beginning of the series, supposed to be the leading man, the main character. But also, it reminds me of Seinfeld a little bit, where he's like, he never really learns a lesson. He doesn't really change that much. But all the people around him do.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the character of Jeff Winger throughout the series, he has moments in like episodes where like, hey, yeah, he's done something nice. He did something good at the end of the episode. But the next episode, he's back to doing, the same old thing. So, but he does kind of grow gradually throughout the series, but it's very small, and like his character, for the most part, stays the same, from
Are you guys still there?
Yeah, I was going to say, did I glitch out, or?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Oh,
okay. Because
Wesley,
last I heard, you were talking about Jeff, and then it just cut out, and
Yeah.
did I get cut out then?
Yeah. I think you.
Okay.
I don't remember when you were talking, but yeah, you were talking about Jeff.
Jeff Winger, played by Joel McHale.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, basically, all I was saying was that as a whole, like, throughout the series, his character mostly stays the same, with a couple, nice deeds here and there throughout. But, from beginning to end, there's a small gradual change. But there's not
and his arc really isn't much about like, because like you look at it, like he really is the same later on in the series as is in the beginning, because like the whole point of him going to Greendale, the whole point like why he had to go to Greendale in the first place is because he lied about going to college in the first place. And
yeah,
I've always loved that line from the pilot episode. When Duncan says, yeah. I thought you had a degree from Columbia," and he says, "Well, yeah, now I have to get one from America."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes down to it, really, Jeff has always been lazy, and like you can even look at it in when he starts teaching at Greendale, like he turns his class into the ultimate blow-off class. Like most of the time they just watch Planet Earth.
Yeah. Speaking though of him doing all that and coming to a like near the end of the series, as that is one thought or one thing with his character that does change by the end of the series, is that the whole time he's trying to be the young, hip, hot guy at college, and even as a teacher he's trying to do that. But it's like by the end of the series he kind of accepts the fact that now this is his life. He's having to settle down. He's having to grow old and accept the fact that he's getting old, and he's not always going to be younger. Episode Robert mentioned was him turning 30 or whatever, or 40, whichever one it is.
Oh yeah, the G.I. Joe episode is when he's turning 40.
Yeah, and he's it's a crisis, in his mind.
And I think that's most of where his character development comes from, is him just, maturing as a person. And, you also get part of that of the other members of the study group, he starts to actually, come to care for and have respect for the other members of the study group when, in the pilot episode, like you said earlier, he was just trying to sleep with Britta.
Yeah, he was just using them to get with Britta.
Yeah.
He finally respects them after Pierce dies and Shirley leaves.
Well, no, you do get to see him, he actually does have, care for it, towards, the end of season 2, season 3. You do get that, start to.
I mean, I only got through the first episode of season 2, and I mean, there were points that he, obviously was caring for. I mean, at the end of the first paintball, it was priority registration. What does he do? He gives that to Shirley, So he does show at the end of certain episodes that he cares. There's a redemption arc by the. It's more, less of a done deal.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about at the end of the episode Modern Warfare in season 1, when he gives the priority registration to Shirley, that's kind of the first time you see him do something selfless.
Mm-hmm.
Because, even earlier on in that episode, he wasn't originally planning to give it away. Because, he was talking about, I think he said something along the lines of, that would be awesome. I could plan all my classes on Monday and have the whole week off. Which is not actually how that works, but,
We're having the opposite problem that we had with Maggie. Instead of everyone trying to talk over each other, nobody's saying anything.
Well, that's what I'm trying not to do. But one thing I want to say if we want to wrap up Jeff is that you really if you really see his character growth and at the end of the series, not to jump to that, but when he when what he wants is to be with Annie, but he knows that she's better off without him. That's why in that I think it's the series finale.
Yeah.
Where because how many times did he and Britta almost get married?
Oh gosh.
Is it 3 times?
It's at least 3 times.
Yeah.
Now, one thing, Wesley just mentioned this. I don't really want to get too far off topic, but Wesley mentioning the first episode of season 2 kind of reminded me of this. So I was reading some stuff. I was looking for some stuff to put, interesting stuff to put in the Instagram post for this episode, and I'd seen one of the things was during the first season, Dan Harmon and the other writers kind of made it a goal to not show anything, or kind of a goal to have the constraint of not showing anything off campus. I never thought about that, but in the first season, they never go off campus. But then the very first scene of season 2 is all of them, waking up during and starting their morning routine. So, the very first scene of season 2 breaks that, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Which also made me think, I didn't even realize that before, that the season 1, thinking about it, that's right, but I never thought about the fact that, season 1, they never go off campus.
Yeah.
They've still done a whole lot in the rest of the series, but... Anyway, we should probably go ahead and keep talking about the characters. I guess next we can move on to Britta.
Played by Gillian Jacobs.
Yep.
So actually, that kind of does tie into the end of season 1 to the beginning of season 2, because at the end of season 1 is the. Do you remember what it was? Some kind of school dance. I can't remember what it was specifically.
Wasn't that the
The
fifth one of
transfer
the year?
dance.
And then you
The
get like
transfer dance.
you get a shirt or
Oh,
something.
the tranny dance.
Yeah, the tranny dance.
Yeah, that's right. Where Britta tells Jeff that she loves him, but she doesn't really. She's just jealous of Jeff's girlfriend
Or ex-girlfriend at the time.
or ex-girlfriend.
Trying to
Yeah.
get back with him.
Yeah.
So at this dance, they both tell Jeff that they love him, and he just leaves them both hanging and walks out
In front of everyone. Like,
in front of everybody.
yeah.
In typical Jeff fashion, let's be honest here.
Mm-hmm. But let's kind of dive a little bit more into Britta's character. So, obviously with that, like, she, I don't think she ever really actually has, like, well, they do date a while in the show, don't they? Jeff and Britta?
Do
I
they?
can't remember.
I think it's
Or-
like off screen
Yeah, like,
because it's like at the end. It's at the end of season 2 that Abed realizes that they've been sleeping together the whole year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so they were together at one point, but obviously they were never, like, I guess together, like they were just kind of sleeping together. They weren't like actually serious. But
I think Abed puts it best with in one of the episodes. He talks about how they're kind of like the Ross and Rachel of this, and like, you know, for anyone who watched Friends, you know, Ross and Rachel are like on and off again all the time, never quite in sync. Even when they're together, it's not great, but like it causes that like romantic tension, you know, within the group.
mhm. But we probably should dive a little more into her character because we really haven't really talked about her character much. So, of course, she's the like, I don't know, what would you call her?
Well, so it's kind of funny, and they even address this in the show because at one point, Jeff says, "I thought, when I first met you, I thought you were smarter than me." You know, at the beginning, she's just like the, the 28-year-old political activist just going back and finish school, and does come off as a know-it-all, and then they really make her an airhead, more of an airhead as the series goes on.
Bagel.
I lived in New York.
Uh,
That's all it takes to be an
feel like we're
airhead.
kind-
Sorry.
I feel like we're kind of Brittaing this, talking about her character because we've kind of been all over the place. But yeah, she's the
It's only fitting.
True. But yeah, she's kind of the dumb blonde type, but she's also got all the like perhaps like the political activist stuff going. You know, she's a anarchist and climate activist or whatever. You know.
But she's never voted.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to go. She doesn't want to what's the word I'm looking for? Conform to the system.
Well, and here's one thing I do like about the show too is like there's a lot of different like it's not really a focal point, but there's a lot of different political stuff and all the stuff in the show, but it makes fun of everything.
And it does it pretty well too.
It might be the most really with Brit because like a lot of Britta's and like Britta and Jeff obviously have a lot of chemistry and stuff together and a lot of character development stuff together. like I said, throughout the show, because like that's one of the things, like with the like especially like early like season 1, 2, and 3, like one of Jeff's big story arc things, like seeing Britta more as a friend more so than as a someone to sleep with.
Love interest.
Yeah,
Love interest. Yeah.
yeah. So and that's one of like. So they both kind of have a lot of, and Britta even says too at one point in the show, like because she I think it's at the end, like towards the end of season 2. Might be like middle of season 2, but she admits that she's like, or she thinks she's kind of a phony because like she I know what it is. It was in Modern Warfare. So the end of season 1, but she tells Jeff that she thinks she's like a kind of a phony, and because of like, all of her stuff, like she talks a big game, but she doesn't really actually do anything, and like just her relationship with Jeff throughout the series, I feel like kind of changes her a little bit, brings her more into what she wants to be, because she sees the way Jeff has changed, and that kind of
Don't forget, she's also in the weirdest relationship of the series with Troy that never really made sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was the gas leak here.
True. We'll get into that in a minute. Anyway, so I guess we'll just keep going around the table. So I guess the next would be Abed, but Troy and Abed, you kind of have to talk about together.
Yeah.
Yeah, Danny Pudi as Abed Nadir.
Yep. So as we mentioned earlier, Abed's like the pop culture obsessed, probably autistic.
So yeah, he's definitely, I guess, on the autism spectrum, and like he can only relate to the world through TV.
Yeah, TV is the way he kind of sees the world.
What's kind of cool though, I think, about his character is I feel like for as weird as he is within the realm of the show, I feel like a lot of times he's sometimes the, and it might just be because of the tropes that he brings from other shows, but like, I don't know, maybe I'm just that weird guy in the corner, but I seem like I can relate to him more than a lot of the other characters in the show.
Which
that's another thing I wanted to.
Go ahead, Rob.
So yeah, that's another thing I wanted to bring up about this show was how like it's great. Like okay, with The Office, to me, what I love about The Office is some of those characters are so relatable, but it's also in kind of a realistic situations at the same time. Most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But in this show, it's so crazy, it's so off the wall. Most of these characters are insane, but they're still so relatable.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that Abed, like, Troy even mentions in one episode, like, Abed is just constantly having his own little side adventures too. Like, there's a bunch of episodes where like the B plot of the episode is just about Abed, like doing something. Like there's the one with like the student body president election, and Abed's like having this weird like thing going on with one of the Secret Service agents, because the vice president is supposed to be like touring Greendale later that day, and so the Secret Service is kind of staking out the campus, make sure everything's okay, and Abed's the only one that actually notices them. But there's also like more subtle points too, where like there's the whole episode where in the background Abed delivers a baby in a car, like it's with this pregnant couple, or this couple, the woman's pregnant, and he delivers a baby in the back of a car. And there's this whole subplot in this episode, and they don't mention it. It's just in the background, which I think is really
well, actually, the only reference to it is the episode when Shirley has her baby, and that's when he says that he's delivered a baby before.
Mm-hmm. But like even rewatching that episode, which I don't even remember which episode that is, but even rewatching that episode, like it's there in the background if you're paying attention, but it's so subtle that even knowing it's there, I miss it most of the time when I watch that episode.
Yeah, he's in almost every scene in the background of that episode, but you really have to pay attention.
Mm.
Mm.
But anyway, like I said, we probably should talk about Troy too with this too, because Troy and Abed have they're the like I guess dynamic duo, inseparable two in the show. You know, they have some of the best chemistry in the show.
David and Wesley as kids, annoying and obnoxious, attached at the hip, as everyone said.
Well, I mean, Troy and Abed are the reason to watch this show.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I saw or heard one thing. I was looking into some stuff about the show earlier today, and I don't know all the facts behind this, but they said something about like so with Community there was a really the shooting schedule was all out of whack. It was real hard to get everyone in there. But in the process, apparently they wanted to do a relationship more so between Troy and Pierce, but Troy or Donald Glover and Danny Putin were the two people who would stay behind most of the time to like shoot longer or do stuff, and so that's how I guess they ended up doing a little of their in-card scenes or whatever, where they're kind of developing that chemistry, and like they do have a relationship between Troy and Pierce as the season goes on, like even with the season 2 thing where he's living with Pierce, but like. Yeah, like Robert said, like the reason to watch the show is because of Troy and Abed, and like the chemistry that they have.
They did kind of try and force that in the first season, the Troy and Pierce, but then like Troy and Abed had the natural chemistry. Like I think it's one of the first episodes, the rap in the study room at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Well, because I think that's at the end of Spanish 101, which is I think that's the second episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll talk about Troy's character a little bit here, and then we can talk a little more about their chemistry. But yeah, Troy Barnes, played by Donald Glover. He was the like. Did they ever mention if he was like a 5-star quarterback, or was he just a?
He was just a star high school quarterback who had an injury. And I guess ended up losing all his scholarships.
Yeah, and then had to end up going to community college because he lost his scholarship, his sports scholarships.
But Greendale has a football team.
The Greendale human beings.
And that's that's season 1, but that's still probably one of my favorite interactions in the show is Jeff trying to convince Troy to play football for Greendale.
That's gay. That's homophobic. That's racist. Y'all two probably know the lines a lot better. Well, y'all probably know the lines. That is enough for me not to know it any better than y'all.
Football is in your heart. That's racist. It's in your soul. That's racist.
I think Jeff says, "You're a football player, Troy. It's in your blood."
That's racist.
In your soul?
That's racist.
In your eyes?
That's gay?
That's homophobic.
That's black.
That's racist.
Oh, dang.
How do we do?
I'm gonna give it an A, not an A plus. Just
that was for memory.
I got you. You got the lines right. I think the delivery could have been better, but you're also talking, over Discord here, so it's not exactly the best platform to.
I never said I was an actor either.
That's true. That's true. We won't hire you as an actor. We'll just have you on for specials.
Okay.
Or not specials, but this special. You could be special. We always knew you were special. On the spectrum, kind of weird, kind of like Abed.
You done?
That's either racist or gay, but it's something, I know. Racist or homophobic, that's what I was looking for.
You're canceled now.
I probably will. Hey, we've talked about this before. I will probably get us canceled. It's okay.
Yeah.
We
But anyway,
we know our inevitabilities.
Yeah, like Troy and Abed make the show. Like their chemistry together. Just the fact like they are basically kids. Like they have it's their imaginations where a lot of plots and stuff from in the show come from. Like the whole like I love the little like end scenes or whatever they are. They're not cold opens. They're like at the end of the episode. But
Oh, the Troy and Abed in the morning.
Warm closes.
well, warm clothes. What?
Like end cards.
yeah, they're kind of like end cards.
Fine,
But
we'll go
there's
with
a
end
like
cards.
most of them are Troy and Abed. Like there's a lot of like the Inspector Space Time ones or the Troy and Abed in the morning. The Spanish rap.
I like that first Troy and Abed in the morning where they have Jeff on, and he's like, "Guys, where are the cameras?" And they're like, "No, we don't have any cameras. Who would watch this?" but they have all the fans outside.
I love that their favorite TV show is Inspector Spacetime, which is a knockoff of Doctor Who. When every other pop culture reference in the show is something actually real.
Yeah.
Well, because like Abed's first like favorite TV show was it Cougar Town or whatever it's called?
Yeah, that's a real
And
show.
that's a real show because Danny Pudi was actually on it in the background, as a reference, like Abed being on the show. Yeah. But I guess we can unless y'all have anything more to add, we can move on to Pierce.
Go for it.
All right. So yeah, Pierce Hawthorne never really had a real job. He was the son of a rich businessman who started a moist towelette company and made a fortune selling wipes.
I think it's important to mention. I know I'm probably stealing Robert's line since he's been listing the actors' names, but this is played by Chevy Chase, and I kind of feel like a lot of Pierce's character has to do a lot with a lot of the behind the scenes stuff too. That with Chevy Chase not really getting along with people behind the scenes.
So from what I understand, and Rob, you might know more about this than I do, but from what I understand, Chevy Chase didn't really like a lot of the comedy in the show. Didn't think it was that funny.
He also
didn't get it.
He also didn't like the way his character was like constantly the, like racist and homophobic.
So,
I think there's a lot of that too.
So because of that, he was constantly butting heads with the writers or the writers, cast, and crew. And so no one on the production of the show really liked Chevy Chase. And so that's why like later on in the series, like especially like season 2, season 3, he's almost like an antagonist, especially season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because like even
Chevy Chase's character is the first one to leave the show of the original 7 characters, and I think a lot of that is because Chevy Chase was the biggest name actor when the series started.
Yeah,
I mean, because he'd been in like the National Lampoon movies, and he'd mostly done comedy movies too. And he wasn't. I don't think that he was used to the schedule that they had to have while doing a TV show, like the really long hours,
like early mornings, long hours. Yeah,
yeah.
I will say that is one thing. Like with like a lot of the butting heads that with Chevy Chase is that, like you said, he was the biggest actor when this show started, and like most people, if they saw him, they'd be like, oh yeah, I've seen him in something here or there. Like, he's a pretty well-known comedian, and he essentially didn't get his way on this show and just basically made a couple more in it. Because from what I've heard, like he's apparently not that easy to work with as it is. So, he's just went and made a couple more enemies and then kind of fizzled out of relevance,
Which
Yeah, he and the showrunner Dan Harmon were always butting heads, and I think that's why Dan Harmon kept writing him that way.
Mm. Well, because you look earlier on in the series, and he's not like that much of an antagonist, that much of a like. He becomes that over the series, like I said, especially in season 2.
Yeah, he's basically the villain of season 2.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we can move, because we've already been recording for almost 40 minutes, so I guess we need to go ahead and finish up on characters, because I know there's some other stuff we want to talk about too. So I guess if we keep going around the table, next around the table would be Shirley Bennett, played by Yvette Nicole Brown. One of y'all want to take over talking about Shirley?
Robert?
Yeah, so I actually like Shirley's character, and I didn't like in season 6 how they tried to replace her. She's a interesting character because she's at the beginning of the series, she's the single mom trying to go to community college, just start her own business and support her family, and all the other members of the study group besides Pierce are younger than her, and she's the only one with a family, and it's an interesting dynamic in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But like as the show goes on, like she she does have a lot of character development as the show goes on, because like you see her with she actually does finally get her business. She of course her and Andre, her ex-husband, end up getting back together later on in the show.
Theo.
What?
Theo.
Theo?
From Cosby Show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I like interrupting though. Specifically you. I won't interrupt.
I've noticed. I've noticed you're very good at interrupting.
I try.
Even though you suck at it. Anyway,
one thing I also want to say about Shirley is I love how they made her. She can flip on a dime between her really sweet personality to being really sassy, and it's just like an immediate change.
And I was saying, Yvette Nicole Brown is such a good actress for being able to do that. Like yeah, because you're right. Like her face and her tone, just like it's a sudden shift. Yeah.
I will say, yeah, with how she is as an actor, like she does a really good job with the character, and I think that is also something that should be said about really everyone in this show. Like Robert said earlier about how it's relatable because we all have jobs and stuff like that, and it seems more realistic, and the community is kind of all over the place. Even outside of that, it still seems real enough, especially with how they portray their characters, the story arcs, the what's the word I'm looking for? It's their character arcs, it all seems natural and just it's actually your or these as real people, kind of a thing.
And I think they're all, and this is similar the same way it is with the characters in Parks and Rec. They're all caricatures. They all, to a point, have one thing that kind of defines their identity, and that's kind of where their whole character is shaped around that, and even their interactions with the other cast is kind of shaped around that. But yeah, all the actors in the show do a good job of realizing that. Anyways. If y'all are done, if we're done talking about Shirley, or the next and last member of the study group is Annie Edison, played by Alison Brie. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Annie is supposed to be the youngest member of the study group, because she,
Yeah. Well, I think her and Troy are supposed to be younger.
Yeah, so
But
in season 1, they're both college freshmen, but then Troy realizes in season 2 he's actually a year older than he thought he was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because of the 21 episode that he has.
Yeah.
Because everyone's 10 for 2 years.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why you're special. Anyway,
Yeah. That's what Mama always told me.
But yeah, so yeah, Annie's kind of she was I think she was supposed to be like the top of her graduating class in high school.
So, yeah,
and then she got addicted. Go ahead.
Yeah, so sorry. She was like the star student, the way Troy was the star football player. She was trying so hard to please. She had the stress, dealing with stress and anxiety. Started taking Adderall, got addicted, and her life kind of went off the rails, and she ended up having to go to community college.
Mm-hmm.
I do find it funny though, like she's seen as like not just the goody two shoes of the group, but she's also seen as like the innocent because she's so young. But she's at a community college because she got addicted to pills. I mean, granted, she probably is one of the more innocent ones of them, but I feel like that's just...
Yeah, she's portrayed as being very naive.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but although she got addicted to Adderall, which, I mean... yeah, it's not I mean, it is and it isn't, but it's not really, like, the most, harmful thing, I mean, it is addictive and stuff, but it's, it's still like a prescription drug.
Everyone, go get hooked on Adderall. David said it's okay.
Don't listen to
David endorses Adderall.
Endorses getting addicted to Adderall.
But what I'm saying is that it's a prescription drug. It's not like some of these other narcotics and stuff that are completely illegal. It's a prescription drug. But
I mean, yeah, but I mean, she still did she got addicted to something which caused her to be unable to go to like top probably Ivy League schools and stuff like that, So, I mean, she is a little more naive to the world than the rest of them, but I feel like that speaks more to the rest of them than necessarily her. Although, going back to Troy, I mean, he comes off a lot of times as, a quote-unquote dumb blonde, not always catching things, so she's not alone in that area.
Yeah, Troy misses a lot of stuff in the show, and it's funny. But yeah. So like that was pretty much everyone in the study group.
Now the wannabes.
Actually, that's actually a good lead into Chang, but yeah. And I know, Rob, you had Chang and Dean Pelton put down here.
The reason the reason I put these both on here is because they're in the series through the whole 6 seasons.
Yeah.
Chang becomes more of a main character at parts. The Dean is like a main background character that almost every episode, if not every episode.
The Dean is like most of the time is there just to deliver exposition or to progress the plot along.
Or with Jeff, or
but he shows up to tell them something about that might be going on that day, and that will that's the plot of the story surrounded about that or something like that. So that's really a lot of what his character does in the show. But also, I know we've been mentioning this. Dean Pelton is played by Jim Rash, and Ben Chang is played by Ken Jeong. But
Both really good
Chang,
portrayals.
yes. Chang is the most interesting character in the entire show because in all 6 seasons he plays a different character. It seems like.
So yeah, so
Well,
in season one, he starts off as their Spanish teacher. The Spanish class that they start a study group and kind of become the Greendale Seven. But then it turns out that he was lying about having or even knowing how to speak Spanish.
Mhm.
In season two, he spends the whole time as a student at Greendale trying to join their study group. In season three, he leads an uprising and becomes a dictator over the community college.
can I say one thing though? Back to what David was saying about how he plays like basically a different character in each season. I'm not going to disagree with that, but have you seen Kim Jong in any other movies? I don't know if he was actually acting or if he was just playing himself because sometimes he seems a little bit insane.
But you also can't forget too in
Like
season
everything I've seen him in,
in
everything
season
I've seen him in, he's a little
4
crazy.
in season 4
That's
in the
just who he
Gaslick
plays
year.
is insane characters.
That's
But yeah,
true.
but see, remember in season 4 too in the Gaslick year, he's pretending to have amnesia and
Changnesia.
Changnesia.
Get it right.
That's right. Yeah. And he calls himself Kevin. But
Well, that's a
funny too,
completely
like,
different character.
but
I hate
also
season 4.
but it's also kind of funny too, because like that whole season, like he's just pretending to have Changnesia, but like there's not really much of a resolution. Like when he finally tells them that he's just pretending, there's not really that much of a like resolution to that, which we can get into that
Right.
the Gaslick year in a minute here, but
Probably because they didn't
well,
go into that with a plan, but
one thing I do want to talk about though with Chang too is, like I said, I was looking up some stuff for the episode, and apparently Chang. So there was a cut storyline, probably from season 3, just from the context. I'm guessing it's probably season 3, but there was a cut storyline that would go on to explain that Chang. Okay, so you know he mentioned several times that when he was in the he was actually a twin, and he ended up eating his twin sister before they were born. This cut storyline would have gone on to explain that Chang's just like psychotic breaks were his dead sister telling him to be evil. His dead sister's ghost telling him to be evil.
so he really did have a split personality.
But that, like, it's so weird that that's not even that crazy for this show. Like, if that had happened in the show, like, if that actually made it into the show, it wouldn't have actually been that crazy. Just judging by everything else that's gone on in the show.
Yeah, that's definitely an off the wall story arc if they were to do it. But this whole show is off the wall, so
I mean, I agree with David though, because there's zombies in this universe.
yeah. I mean that was completely off the wall. So
And it was just
You
a
know.
one-off, never mentioned again.
when I first watched that episode, I was like, oh, this has to be like a dream. And then they just ended the episode, went about their business, and the next one came and nothing. I was like, oh, okay, so that's supposed to be, just you're supposed to accept that as real.
Because the dean was trying to save money and he bought contaminated meat.
Don't eat army taco meat.
But it could be tasty.
All right.
But the cure is just turn the air conditioner down really low.
Yeah,
There
to
you
break
go.
the fever. Yeah.
Let's go eat army taco meat in the Antarctic.
Um.
If it's in. Yep. The signifying that you were in. I made the rules up before you said anything.
Right. I think Rob wanted to talk about the gas leak year, too, because that's kind of important. You want to go over what happened behind the scenes in season 4, that kind of like why season 4 is so different?
Yeah, sure. So after the 3rd season, the show was on the verge of cancellation, and Dan Harmon, the series creator and showrunner, was going through, his controversy. And what NBC decided to do was have him kind of step to the side, and they brought on 2 new showrunners who had only ever worked on one show that made, I think, 6 episodes. So it didn't even get picked up as a full season. And you can really tell season 4, which is referred to as the gas leak year, it's almost like they're like a community fan fiction. It's a show. It's like it's a show trying to imitate Community, but it doesn't quite get there.
Yeah. I also I will give it the fact that it does it's the last season where it does have all the original cast. But it still doesn't really feel much like season 5 and season 6. I still think season 2 and 3 are the best, but season 5 and season 6 still have a bunch of good episodes. Season 4 is still by far the weakest season out of all 6.
Now, I will say, season 5 did get better because they brought Dan Harmon back for seasons 5 and 6. But after season 5, the show was canceled by NBC. And then it was picked up. Yeah, it was picked up by a new streaming service at the time. I think in 2015 called Yahoo Screen. Have you ever heard of that, Wesley?
I have, because I've done research into this, but before that, no.
So yeah, you would have seen that this show basically was the start of that streaming service and also killed it. Because they invested everything into it and it only made 1 season.
Like the series, the sad thing about the show is you had the first 3 seasons, with the original cast and the original, writers and producers and all that stuff, person who made the show, all that's the same. And then they get rid of Dan Harmon, and then the show drops off with season 4. But then when season 5 and 6 come around, you no longer have the original cast anymore, and it is kind of a, like you said, there are good episodes. It doesn't feel the same because we've lost a couple characters, and it's just changed, it doesn't have the complete same feel because not everyone's there that was in the beginning.
Because it's so Pierce leaves in universe he died between season 4 and 5, and then Troy leaves in the middle of season 5, and Shirley doesn't come back for season 6. So in season 6, it's only Jeff, Britta, Abed, and Annie that are the original, of the original study group. And
honestly, out of everyone leaving, I think Troy leaving hurt the most, and it's because Troy and Abed, it was a really big part of that show. Even if it was more of a B plot thing, that where the comedy came in, where a lot of you felt the chemistry between them, it was just, that was a really good part of the show, and it just is gone.
Yeah, I think that Troy, because Troy had Pierce was kind of the the role his character played was he was kind of like the one who just made quips and stuff in the background. He had interactions with everyone, but didn't really have that deep of a connection with anyone, if that makes sense. But Troy, his character evolved alongside all these others, and I feel like Troy was a lot more. like the characters were a lot more intertwined, especially with Jeff, Britta, and Abed. They were a lot more intertwined with Troy than with Pierce or Shirley. So Pierce and Shirley leaving didn't affect as much, but yeah, Troy was a big loss to the show.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, like episodes in season 5 and 6 after Troy leaves, but it's more like episodes as opposed to like everything.
Mm.
Of the original cast that left, he's the only one that actually got a proper send off. Because I mean, Piers was like the reading of his will.
Didn't Shirley just not come back when they got canceled? She just didn't come back because her contract ran out or whatever, and they just didn't re-sign, so she wasn't in season 6.
Right.
So she didn't. They just said, "Oh yeah, she's off," doing whatever. Same kind of with Pierce. They just obviously didn't kill her off because it's easier to kill off an old man than it is.
Chevy Chase actually left the show during season 4 before they finished it. But the episodes were released out of order than from what they filmed. So that's why they kind of broke it up so he was in the beginning and the end of the season, but he wasn't in every episode.
Yeah. I will say though, like even with the way that they go about doing it, like because obviously there was real world problems and like the butting heads that Chevy Chase had, and how he just left the show. It really makes it like, the first episode of season 5, with the like murder mystery. Isn't that at the end of that episode when they find out the first season 5 that he's died? Yeah. It kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's just like they just kind of, all right, well we have to put this in here because real world stuff happened, and they can't have a send off.
But also, Yvette Nicole Brown was in the last episode, briefly. So she was the only one to come back for that. Well, obviously, like, Pierce is dead, but Donald Glover didn't end up coming back for the finale.
Yeah, I kind of expected, watching through the first time, I kind of expected him to come back for the very last one, but I don't know. I mean, he did kind of blow up after that with a lot of different things, so he probably was a little bit too busy.
Like, because after that, he started his rap career, and then he was on the show Atlanta,
and he also did several movies too. Like he was in Solo and some other movies too.
The first, which one is that? Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Well, speaking of which,
I do want to talk about the cameos in the MCU.
Oh,
cameos.
Before we get to that,
let me give some background for that first.
Well, so Wesley, go ahead and say what you're saying, then we can move on to that.
Well, I was gonna say for the how he's in Spider-Man: Homecoming or whatever, and he's supposed to maybe the Prowler or whatever, and then later on in the new Spider-Verse movie, he's as the Prowler, as a cameo. I found it funny that in the season 2 opening that David was talking about earlier, where they show them all waking up, he wakes up with a Spider-Man shirt on.
And I know that Spider-Man pajamas.
Yeah, and I was like, that definitely has nothing to do with anything. But I thought it was kind of funny that it's like he's here, and then a couple years later, down the road, he's in the Spider-Man movie. Everyone was like, "Hey, he should be some of this stuff," and there he is wearing Spider-Man pajamas. But that was all I had to say.
Well, also talking about that before we move on to the Russos, but apparently I don't know the whole story. I've heard it. Heard about this. I don't know the whole story about this, but apparently Donald Glover is partially responsible for the creation of the character of Miles Morales. So,
oh yeah, I've heard that before.
So there is part. So there is part of that with that because I think when they were making the Amazing Spider-Man movies, Donald Glover was trying to get the role of Peter Parker. And so that whole thing kind of sparked the thing of having an African American Spider-Man, and that's kind of where Miles Morales came from.
Well, wasn't it originally Stan Lee's idea when making Spider-Man to have a full mask so that, I mean, obviously I know Peter Parker is traditionally white, but wasn't the idea that, and I mean, I'm glad that, like, I like the character of Miles Morales, but I'm saying, like,
so,
you know, as far as like people coming in and saying no, Donald Glover couldn't play in the Amazing Spider-Man, it's like, you know, that kind of takes away from the heart of it, where it's like the reason was so that anyone could
so
be.
there are two things with that. So yes, that was originally Stan Lee's kind of like envisioning with that, but Stan Lee also said in interviews later on, like, you know, if you want to make Spider-Man black or whatever, you know, Peter Parker is white. That's it, that's the character. Make a new, like, it doesn't matter, like, if you want to make a new character who is Spider-Man, and that's what they did, because that's actually one thing, that's one thing that Stan Lee kind of wanted them to do with that character, because, you know, the character he created was Peter Parker, and he kind of created it to be a certain way. But yeah, originally that was the thing in, like, the I forget what comic strip or what comic book that was, because he was originally in a like a series of comics that was kind of like one-off stories. Spider-Man didn't have his own comics originally, but yeah, that was kind of like originally that's what Spider-Man was supposed to be. But when they kind of fleshed him out, gave him his own comic series, they fleshed him out as Peter Parker, kind of fleshed him out his character a little bit more. But let's go ahead and dive into the Russos real quick, because get a little background. Rob, I think you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, y'all were on a tangent about Spider-Man, so I was just waiting to get back to this.
We do that.
Yeah, down the rabbit trail. So yeah, the Russo brothers, Joe and Anthony Russo, who got their start on this show. I think this show is probably most famous for the paintball episodes. Modern Warfare towards the end of season 1, and then the 2-part season finale of season 2, A Fistful of Paintballs and For a Few Paintballs More. Those episodes are kind of what got the Russo brothers their jobs in Marvel. They actually left the show after season 3 to direct Captain America Winter Soldier. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, David, I think they directed Civil War, Infinity War, and then Endgame.
I believe that's right, because Joss Whedon did Age of Ultron, so yeah, I believe that's right.
Right.
But yeah, and because of that, there are a lot of actors from Community who made cameo appearances in their Marvel movies. Like in Winter Soldier, Danny Pudi made a cameo appearance. He was one of the SHIELD agents. I actually had a list of them pulled up earlier. Yeah, so Danny Pudi, obviously Donald Glover, which I don't think Homecoming was directed by the Russos, but he was still in, made a cameo appearance in Homecoming. Jim Rash made a cameo appearance in Civil War. Yvette Nicole Brown made a cameo appearance in Endgame, and on this list it said Ken Jeong, but I can't remember which movie Ken Jeong was in.
Oh, I'm looking it up right now. I had forgotten Ken Jeong was in one too.
Like I said, this is just what I pulled from a list I found.
So this says he was in Endgame.
Endgame, okay. I don't remember because, like I said, Yvette Nicole Brown was in the elevator at the Shield base when Steve and Tony had gone back in time again. Shirley was one of the Shield agents on the elevator, but I don't remember.
Okay, so Ken Jeong, in the beginning of Endgame, Ken Jeong is a security guard in the storage facility that finds.
That's right. That's right.
Scott Lang, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing about those movies is I mean, I probably could go back and watch them, but like they're long. There's 2 parts to it. I'm pretty sure I've only seen those like once or twice. The Infinity just
Well, just because like I think I've seen Infinity War probably about 5 or 6 times, maybe 7 times, but I've only seen Endgame like 3 times.
yeah.
Just because just because yeah, I feel like whenever I'm like to watch Endgame, I feel like I have to watch Infinity War too. And then, if you're gonna watch Infinity War, you gotta watch Thor Ragnarok. And if you're gonna watch Thor Ragnarok, you might as well watch Civil War too. So it's just a constant,
Before
like,
you know it, you're at Iron Man. So
yeah,
When
did,
exactly.
When did Endgame come out?
I believe it was 2019.
Okay, 'cause
Yeah,
I haven't seen
2019.
it since then.
I think I saw it maybe once or twice in theaters, and like that was about it.
I can't remember if I saw it once or twice in theaters, but I know I did watch it on Disney Plus because I watched through like I didn't watch through all the MCU because the MCU is it's a lot to that, but I did watch through like a lot of the like my favorite movies back in like 2020, maybe 2021. So I did watch it on Disney Plus once, but other than that, I haven't watched Endgame. Other than that.
You want to talk about some of our favorite episodes of Community?
Yeah, sure, we can do that. Well, what's that? I don't know if you've had Well, you can go last because I don't know if you need time to think about it.
No, I have the ones I like.
Okay, I'm pretty sure Robert and I's are going to be very similar. List at least.
So I already thought about that, and I actually picked out some that I thought are maybe like not as popular as the paintball episodes, the D&D episode.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna include any of the paintballs because all those are amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna include those. I think okay, so well, I'll let one of y'all go first. You can just give like your top 3 or something. I don't know, or however many
Well,
you think.
I have 5 on here I wanted to talk about, and I guess like maybe y'all should talk about some of the more popular ones.
Okay.
The first one that I kind of wanted to talk about was the kind of if you've ever seen the YouTube channel Entertain the Elk, he does a lot of videos about TV series like Community, The Office, Parks and Rec. And one of them he does is the day Community was born. The first episode of Community that kind of became, was the first episode that was like what the show ended up becoming.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in season 1. It was season 1, episode 21, Contemporary American Poultry. Something else I want to say is they tried to make the title of every episode sound like a college class.
Mm.
So yeah, in this episode, sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Well, I was about to say even like some of them are literally just named like the first episode of season 1, season 2, and season 3 are just the name of the class they're taking that semester. So even like some of those are
Right.
But yeah.
And then the first episode of season 5 is called Repilot because it was after they brought almost had to bring the show back from cancellation. It was Dan Harmon's return, so it was called Repilot.
Mm.
So yeah, Contemporary American Poultry is kind of like a mafia style, or it's kind of pays homage to like mafia movies, like Goodfellas, where the best thing in the school cafeteria dining hall are the chicken fingers, and
Oh yeah.
and Starburns is working the fryer, and he's able to like set some aside, give all his friends, and like they always run out, then there's never enough for everyone. So they hatch a plan to get him fired, get Abed in there, and end up basically running the school because they control the chicken fingers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good episode, and like I do really like season 1. Like that's like season 2 and 3 are the best, but season 1 is right behind them. I think the later seasons are go down in quality. But like season 1 is still it still has that community feel like season 2 and 3 does. Like a lot of shows, like we've talked about this before in the past when we talked about The Office and Parks and Rec, like the first season they didn't really know what they were doing. It doesn't really feel like the rest of the show. It's kind of off. But Community is one show that like right from the beginning it does have that like feel to it. But you're right, that episode is kind of where it becomes what Community is. Now, another episode. Now, this is kind of jumping around. I don't know if you have this on your list or not, but another episode that a lot of people kind of. This is one episode that probably, when I think of some of my favorite episodes, this one comes to mind. There's also one that a lot of people say is the best episode of the series, but it's season 3, episode 4, Remedial Chaos Theory.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite episodes.
Mm. And basically the plot of this episode is Troy and Abed move into the new apartment. They invite everyone over for a housewarming party. They order pizza. They have to decide who goes down to get the pizza, and so they roll a dice or a die, and whatever number decides who goes down, and it just jumps through the different possibilities and kind of like seeing how the characters interact with one member gone or something like that, and of course it's got the meta humor with like it's different timelines.
Now, do you guys remember? So the best outcome was when Jeff was the one that left. Do you guys remember which one was the darkest timeline? Do you guys remember who left?
When Troy leaves.
Right.
Yeah, it was when Troy leaves.
And it was because when he leaves, the show goes downhill. Well,
Yeah,
not completely, but
that was my point. The show kind of lost something when he left.
It's kind of weird foreshadowing.
I was watching a video earlier that I was wanting to bring that up at some point. I had forgotten, but at least you remembered.
Mm. Now, do you have another episode you want to talk about?
Do you have one, Wesley?
Not any specifically. I mean, here's the thing. I watched through. Let's see. I have a list. Let's see. Where did I start? I think I started at the end of season 1, and I made it all the way to season 2, episode 1, in the past week or so. So I haven't watched it. Besides those couple episodes, I haven't watched it in a long time, at least 6 months or so. Episodes stick out to me. The ones that y'all are talking about, yeah, I know them. I've seen them. They come back. But, I haven't done enough of, that research to be like, hey, this is my specific... So, y'all can keep going about what y'all are doing. And I will be perfectly fine to sit here.
I've got two more that I want to talk about, but you can you might have them on your list or not. But you can
I will say the one episode I was thinking about though, the one with the Christmas episode where Abed is claymation.
Oh,
I think that one has a nice story to it and a nice outcome and all. I think the message is really nice in that one, and they go about it in a different way.
Yeah,
a really good episode.
That one is, I don't remember what episode, or what number. That is in season 2, Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas.
Mm-hmm. It is season 2, episode 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Well, so my next one is one we kind of already talked about. It's epidemiology. It's the season 2, episode 6 about the zombies.
Yeah, yeah,
So we kind of
and
already
that,
talked about that.
yeah. I mean, it's not really a whole lot really to talk about with that one. You know, like it's just you know,
So
military
the
surplus
well,
talking.
it's the yeah. So the Greendale Halloween party and the dean buys uh, ground beef from the army surplus store, and it turns out that it's radioactive or something, and ends up turning everyone into zombies. And Troy and Abed have to save everybody by turning the AC all the way down.
Mm, yeah.
Speaking of Tori and Abed, another good episode with them is the last episode with Troy in it. The Floor is Lava one. I don't know what the name of the episode is or which episode it is, but that one's a good episode.
Yeah, that's one of the early season 5 episodes.
Yes.
I was about to say, do you know which one? Because I'm looking at season 5, but I don't.
Season 5, episode 5, geothermal escapism.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Mm.
And it really is like, like Abed's whole world is like collapsing because, not just because of the fact that someone's leaving, like Pierce has died, he's left, and that didn't shake Abed to his core. But Troy leaving, like his best friend, like things are really just starting to go downhill, and he has to kind of grasp the fact that, things move on. Life moves on. Doesn't mean you're no longer friends with those people. Also, looks here like it's saying it was directed by Joe Russo. Maybe that's the reason it was good.
So I didn't know that. So I guess they actually did come back after season 3 to direct some episodes.
Well, now this is all Wikipedia, but I'm seeing in season 5 that episode was directed, and the Dungeons and Dragons episode was directed by him as well. I think I saw his name a couple more times somewhere. Maybe that was it. Yeah.
I'm not surprised if they did come back, or at least if he came back to direct some episodes.
Because that was the season Dan Harmon came back.
Yeah.
It's just those 2 episodes that I'm seeing for season 5 and season 6.
Yeah. And most of the episodes that I'm thinking of are in season 3. Like I said, I love season 2 and 3, but like a lot of the more memorable episodes for me at least are in season 3. I guess the next one I'm kind of thinking of is really it's kind of a two-parter, but the main one I'm thinking of is the second part of it. It's season 3, episode 14, Pillows and Blankets.
I was just looking at that one.
Yeah, it's the Ken Burns style documentary about the war between what were the cities' names? It was Pillowtown and Blanketsburg.
Wasn't that when Troy and Abed were at odds because one wanted to do a pillow fort and one wanted to do the blanket fort?
Well, and I can't remember which. I think maybe season 2 they built a blanket fort that was in took up the whole dorm area of the school.
Yeah.
So the dean. Yeah, so they wanted to do it again, but as Abed wanted to do a pillow fort, and the dean wanted them to try to break the world record for the largest pillow blanket fort. So Troy wanted to do that, and he built his blanket fort, and to have enough space to make it a world record, he would have to join it to Abed's pillow fort, and Abed didn't want to do that.
Yeah, this was all in the episode before, which was digital exploration of interior design, season 3, episode 13. And then because that one was the one with all the world record stuff going on, and then like I said, in episode 14 is when it kind of becomes like a Ken Burns style like Civil War documentary, because it's like almost like a Civil War going on. Yeah. Do you have another one you want to talk about, Rob?
So yeah, I've actually got another episode in season 3. It's season 3, episode 5, horror fiction in 7 spooky steps.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's a good one.
yeah, at the beginning of this one, so at the beginning of this season, Britta decides that she wants to be a psychology major. So at some point, she has everyone in the study group take a I don't know what is it called, a psychology test,
Like a personality exam, or I mean, but something
Personality
like
quiz
that.
or something like that.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Where the test where you have to fill out the bubbles where you guess you answer A, B, C, D, or E.
Hmm.
So yeah, she ends up running those tests and finds out that someone in the group has homicidal tendencies. So to find out who it is, she has them all tell scary stories, because this is another Halloween episode, and those are fun.
Hmm. But I love the gag at the end that she inserted them in upside down, so she got them back wrong, and when she put them in the right way, all but one of them are insane, and the one person who isn't insane is Abed.
Yeah.
Mm. Which kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, Abed is like, in some ways, is the most relatable, is the most like real person in the show, because like, even though he's like, can't really connect with people, doesn't really know. Like, so he's somewhat he's on the spectrum, so like, he has to relate to the world through TV and stuff. But in spite of that, he's still one of the most like normal characters on the show.
All right, so I've got 2 episodes left, and one of them is the series finale. If there's one you want to talk about, Dave.
This might be the other one you want to talk about too, but season 3, episode 20, digital estate planning. That one's really
You know
good.
what? I forgot that one.
Okay. Well,
So
that's
the
one.
entire episode is a 16-bit like Super Nintendo game.
Yeah.
That's the one
Yeah.
where Pierce's dad dies, right?
It's after Pierce's dad dies, and it's the game basically, like, they have to win to get Pierce's inheritance, and then it's also where we figure out that Gilbert, who was Nathaniel Hawthorne's, Pierce's dad's assistant, was actually his illegitimate son. And at the end, it had the thing like, basically Pierce lets him get the inheritance instead.
Oh, and he's played by Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's a really good episode.
Yeah, I really-
just 'cause, like, I love the like 16-bit animation.
Yeah. So another one that I wanted to talk about was season 5, episode 8, app development and condiments. So
Meow Meow
this is the
Beans.
This is the Meow Meow Beans, the social rating system. And the reason I want to talk about this is, Wesley, are you familiar with the Netflix show Black Mirror?
I've heard of it. I've not looked into it, no.
So it's kind of like the Twilight Zone, but it's mostly to do with technology.
Uh-huh.
Black Mirror are screens.
Okay.
So this episode with the app that's the social rating system, and then the whole school kind of like turns to the caste system. Black Mirror did this same concept, but after Community.
Well, today, this is off topic, but kind of in the same realm. What's the guy, the creator of Phineas and Ferb, or one of the creators, the guy who does Doofenshmirtz. What's his name?
Dan Povenmire.
He was talking one of the social media accounts where basically giving the generic synopsis of Avengers, and he was like, saying, "You remember that movie?" And he was like, "No, not that movie. No, this movie." And he started showing clips from across the second dimension, and he was like, "We did it a year earlier," and so maybe it was just one of those things where a goofy show has a really good idea, and then someone just goes and makes it serious.
No, I saw that too. I know what you're talking about.
Basically, what he was saying is like the third act of Across the Second Dimension and the third act of Avengers are very similar. Which, hey, we're talking about Phineas and Ferb next week, so yeah.
That's true. We can bring that up again. But
it's funny that they did that. They did that a year before Avengers.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, "Wait a minute!" And I looked it up, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, never mind. I remember. Yeah."
Also, technically, they were one of the first ones to do the whole multiverse thing. As weird as that is.
Only ones to do it well.
Can we stop doing it now?
No.
What, you're not tired of multiverse movies yet?
Oh no, I am. But Hollywood's not tired of it because they're still making some money off of it.
The problem with multiverse movies is like every single one is the exact same plot. And then when they introduce it in the way that, there's like, an infinite number of, parallel dimensions, nothing has stakes anymore, because if this character dies, then they can just, bring him back in a different costume with a, different hairstyle, and it's, like it's,
The Arrowverse TV shows were really bad about that. I was about to say The Flash, but it was all of those shows.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. Once I really only watched The Flash, and once The Flash really started getting to where they had more of the crossover episodes, is where I kind of stopped watching as much, because it was way too much to get into, and two, it really just got way too more so as the series went on. The Arrowverse went on. But yeah, no, they need to go back to solo movies where you just make one, and it's an original idea, if Hollywood can come up with one, and then, never speak of it again. Make something else up.
Yeah,
you don't have to reboot everything.
Yeah, but I know, Rob, you mentioned a minute ago you want to talk about the season finale. Or the series finale.
And then the series finale, and then possible reboot, or 6 seasons and then our movie.
Yep. So yeah, I do want to talk about that. But yeah. So why don't you go ahead and just talk about or say what you wanted to say about the season finale or series finale.
Well, actually, I wanted to ask you guys a question. Because I heard you in your Parks and Rec in your Office episode talking about the series finales, and how do you compare this to those?
Of the three, if you want to, I feel like The Office and Parks and Rec are more comparable than Community is to those two, just because Community is Community is not your average sitcom, but so I feel like it's not as comparable, but I still feel like of the endings, it is probably my least favorite finale.
I would say I like this one better than the one for Community. And again, I will say I did watch Community last, so there might just be more nostalgia with the other two. But I think if we're going to compare across all three of them, I'd say The Office is my number one. I liked the way that this one ended. I felt satisfied. I think that was one thing that made sense. The way he, gauges how they are is if he's satisfied at the end or not. I was satisfied in the Community. Parks and Rec, I think, should have ended a season earlier. I would have been satisfied with that ending. But since it went on a little bit farther, I was a little bit more kind of like it should have ended and then it got drug out a little bit more, and so that made me a little less satisfied. So, but that's
Well, do you
my
think
opinion.
Community ran too long?
I mean, okay. As far as like, if I'm just thinking about the finale episode, I like that as like I like the way it ended. Like the closure that you get at the end of um in a Community. And I think I mentioned this in the when we were talking about Parks and Rec. The way that they go into the future a little bit, so and kind of show you where everyone's at, might be part of why I don't like it as much, because now there's no mystery to it. At the end of The Office, everyone leaves, goes their separate ways. There's mystery to where their lives go after that. At the end of Community, everyone parts, goes their separate ways. There's a little mystery to where their lives are. Yeah, not everyone dies. They don't show out everyone, how old they were when they die and all everything that happened in their life at the end of, the Community finale. But I feel like mystery of what you can imagine in your head showing years into the future and showing where they're at years in the future. And so I think that's why it would rank a little bit lower in my mind, personally, as far as Parks and Rec goes. I feel like
It was kind of a it's kind of a running thing throughout the series, the 6 seasons in a movie. And there actually is a movie in development right now. I think was supposed to shoot later this year, but there's the Writers Guild of America strike going on, and then I think even now actors are on strike.
Yeah.
So who knows when that's actually going to come out?
Maybe Hollywood would stop for a while. Although I feel like a Community movie would actually be good for where we are with movies now. Like, yes, Community is a pre-existing thing and all, but like if you made a movie off of Community, it's like from the 80s, or making a new movie that was once in the 80s. Like it is a new thing, more or less. And it's not multiversal, although they could do that. I just would hope they don't.
Now, I feel like when this movie gets made, it's going to be like very meta, and it's probably going to make fun of a lot of the modern cinematic tropes. So it probably will make fun of a lot, like multiverse stuff and a lot of the reboots and stuff, like that kind of stuff. So I feel because
So they are going to bring back Chevy Chase. They're going to reboot Chevy Chase then.
Because I feel like that's just the way Community is, that they make spoofs of they don't know, like when they make fun of something, it's more in the form of a spoof more so than like the characters actually making fun of. Well, although Abed does make fun of a lot of movies, but I feel like that's probably going to be more like what it is. But I don't think the whole movie is going to be a spoof of another movie. But I feel like that's kind of the direction they would go with that.
It's hard for me to kind of picture what a Community movie would be, even though I want one.
Yeah, I was going to ask what would be the movie be about? Like they've already parted, they've already gone their separate ways. Like what brings them back together? And like what's the point? Obviously, like you said, yeah, there's a want for it. But then it has to come down to, well, then what would it be about?
They have to save Greendale one more time.
I was gonna say that's about the only thing that can really be thought of with that.
Pretty much. The only other thing I could think of was I think the first like Gilligan's Island like revival movie. I can't remember which one. Escape from Gilligan's Island. Where when they get off and then Skipper and Gilligan travel the country to find everybody again.
Yeah, because they want to do a new another 3-hour tour. One last thing, and then they get shipwrecked.
But
I think that I think what it was is to be able to buy another boat, the skipper has to get like a signed affidavit from all of the shipwreck you know
Oh yeah,
passengers that it wasn't his fault.
Mm.
yeah. It's been a while since I've seen that movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those like you like it because it's Gilligan's Island, but
It's not good.
it's not, and it's also like it's kind of sad because one, like it was years after the show was relevant, so that's why everything looks crappy. Like it did not have a high budget, and
They recast Tina Louise.
and so like they just not in that one.
No, yeah, the first movie they recast Tina Louise.
Not in that one. No.
No, and then
For Rescue from Gilligan's Island, they had they had the original cast. Now they made a couple other movies after that, and they might have. I've never seen those, but from Rescue from Gilligan's Island, which is from what I know the first one that they did, everyone's the original cast.
No, it's
Ginger
Ru-
Grant was played by Judith Baldwin in
Yeah,
Rescue
Rob-
from Gilligan's Island.
Rob's right.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
looking it up now.
Not lying
Alright.
to you.
Hey! I'm just saying I didn't remember it. Let's see. Oh, there it was. But either way, I mean, okay, never mind. You're right. But it is still is kind of sad. Like it's the end of. Didn't really have a finale. Like it just kind of ended, and like it's kind of better left that way.
Like, do you like the way that sitcoms used to be, where there wasn't really a series finale, they just ended, or the way that they are now?
I mean, endings are nice, but like the way that a lot of the endings, like they make you feel certain emotions, but at the same end, you can go back to the beginning, and it's like Gilligan's Island. You can watch the last episode and go straight to the first episode, and it doesn't seem out of place. Like a lot of that has to do with like they're comedies. So there's not as much character development. And I think in a lot of the older shows there wasn't really character development. It was like a character was how they were. So like think I Love Lucy. What's the common? Lucy gets herself into trouble. Ricky gets mad at her. Ethel's along with it. And then at the end of the episode, everything gets resolved.
Well, that's another show that didn't really have an ending. It just kind of
What I'm saying, like, there's also not really any character development in it. It's just a comedy, And so you can watch the last episode, you can watch the first episode, and it doesn't always have to be in order to it. Whereas like nowadays, like there's a lot more character development in TV shows. Where like at the beginning of Community, Jeff is a bit different. You're talking about how his character doesn't change that much, but he is a different character at the beginning of it than he is at the end. The show changes from beginning to end, whereas a lot of the older ones don't, and they're doing it differently. So I don't necessarily know. Like I like old shows, I like new shows. I don't know how I would feel like okay if The Office didn't have an ending, I'd have to see it to know if that was good because I like The Office ending. I like the way Community ends, but like I don't know if there's right like this is better or this is not, like at least how I see it. They both have their own, I guess, ways of telling stories, and they do it in two different ways.
Well, and one thing that you'd mentioned with the Parks and Rec finale, which so I still think is my favorite, but you said you didn't like the fact that they jumped into the future.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I think is kind of interesting is Community does that, but does that in the way of like is not like canon. It's what each one of the characters envisions what the future is going to look like.
Yeah, it's hypothetical futures in the season
Yeah.
finale. That's what the whole season finale of Community is them at the bar where Britta works, and they're just like giving their pitch for what the next season is.
Yeah. So do you like? What's I was wondering, like, so basically my point with that is like, do you mind that even though you don't like the way like Parks and Rec did it, where it's technically like this is what happened to all the characters?
Well, okay,
Like,
so a lot of what stands out to me about the finale episode of Community, like when I'm thinking over in my head, is that end scene where they're back in the room. Uh, um, Annie kiss, and then everyone else comes up. You know, it's like you said, the endings aren't necessarily canon, so it's not like none of that's gonna happen or did happen, or you know, what you know of the end of the show is that Abed and Annie are moving away. Jeff's gonna be a teacher, and I don't remember what Britta's doing, but you know, like where you don't necessarily know specifically what they're doing.
mm-hmm.
And I'm not necessarily saying that is specifically why I do or don't like an ending. I'm just saying that the way I felt at the end of the emotion that it evokes more emotion out of me, the Office ending and the Community ending, than the Parks and Rec ending did. That's all I'm saying. And those are the reasons, I guess, maybe why. So.
Okay. Anyway, do either one of y'all have any more to say about Community?
Nope.
I'm ready for that movie.
6 seasons
now,
in a movie.
Now, what if it's bad?
I'm gonna watch it anyway.
Yeah.
I know, like, if it's bad. Like, oh, they shouldn't have made it, or, oh, they should have just made it better.
But see, something I was just thinking about when you were talking about the jump forward in Parks and Rec, where you learn how every character ends, where they end up, and then you're kind of left hanging with The Office and with Community. Like the Office Community are actually open, like they're open for a revival show or a movie. I kind of like to see that with The Office too, just to see what they could come up with, because I want Michael Scott to come back.
Yeah, that is what, like, even with the finale episode, is kind of sad to see. Like, as good as that episode is, like, how limited Michael is in that movie. I know, obviously, like, you know, he was off doing other things and all, but like, he had a couple lines, and he's very rarely in the movie. So it would be nice to see the whole cast reunited to do things like feel like the original Office, you know.
Well, in the same way, I feel like when the Community movie, if Dan Harmon is the one, if he's the director producer, and they get Donald Glover to come back, I think it will be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, even like, because of how off the wall and unhinged Community is, it doesn't necessarily matter like the plot. Like, if you get all of them together, I feel like that. Not a half decent movie, if not a good movie, you know.
Who knows? It'll probably end up being like some like an entire action movie with paintball. Yeah. Paintball and Dungeons and Dragons mixed together. I don't know. That's the thing. Community they could do really anything with that movie, and it would still feel like Community. At least plot-wise, you know.
I think the biggest thing as far as feeling like Community is you have to have the characters. Like, the actual storyline can change, but if you don't have the characters, then you're gonna it's missing.
Like Rob said, I think the biggest thing would be the original cast.
Yeah.
You know, and Dan Harmon, like, you know, which I think all the original cast has said they would come back. I don't think. Well, actually, I don't think Donald Glover confirmed that, but all the others. So, Joel McHale, Danny Pudi, Gillian Jacobs, Yvette Nicole Brown, and crap, what's Annie's name?
Allison Brie.
Alison Brie. Yeah, I think all five of them have confirmed that they would want to do a Community movie, but I don't think Donald Glover has confirmed that.
Now this is Wikipedia, but I do see something here that said as of April of this year he had confirmed that he was doing something with it. But this is Wikipedia.
Okay.
Oh, I found an article about this too. So it says, fortunately, we do have some good news. In June 2023, Joel McHale went on the podcast Let's Talk Off Camera with Kelly Ripa and gave a positive update. We're shooting it next summer, the comedian declared. Granted, that's quite a ways off, but that just means we have more time to rewatch previous seasons of Community. At this point in time, we have no idea. Let's see. I know he talked somewhere in here about Donald Glover's coming back.
With Troy leaving, he left for a boat trip. Was he just supposed to be on that trip for the rest of the remaining season and a half he was gone? I don't remember what happened.
If I'm remembering right, he was going to sail around the world, which would have taken him about 2 years, if I'm remembering right. And so that was in the middle of season 5. So it would have only been about a year and a half till the end of the show.
So it was supposed to be he was just gone the whole time.
Yeah. So the timeline would have worked out. Now I feel like if they do a Community movie, now the actors might have aged a little bit too much for this to be the case, but I feel like that would be an interesting thing is if it's like, you know, where we're introduced to Troy afterwards is like getting into port like right after, you know, he finishes that. But I don't know if they'd do that because I don't know how much given how much times, because it's been since 2015, so it's been almost 8 years. It's been 8 years. Holy crap! But
no. So I found it.
Okay.
Okay, so it says Joel McHale also confirmed Glover's involvement while appearing on the podcast, saying Donald is coming back, and that's really important. So that was last month.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. But yeah. So that's the big thing. But like I said, setting is kind of an interesting thing because like I said, I don't know how much the actors have aged and how like, you know, obviously you could look at pictures of them now. Like I don't think Joel McHale's really aged that much because like you know, we've seen him in Animal Control recently, and he's still Jeff Winger. So he could play Jeff like, you know, like a year after the series ends, but I don't know how much all the other actors would do playing, you know, like how they'd look, how much they've aged since then.
Honestly, I feel like Donald Glover would be the one who looks like he's aged the most.
Well, okay, if they said it like things. But if they said it like right after he gets back and he's got like you know, longer hair and a beard, that would make sense.
Well, it would. And I'm saying, I mean, I do feel like though, like even aside from the beard, like I think he looks like he's older, like he looked like a kid in this. But that being said, yes, if he had, you know, obviously come back from a year voyage around the world, like, you know, yeah, grow a beard out, makes sense. But you know, I haven't seen Gillian Jacobs in anything, or but I have seen Alison Brie. That came out recently. I saw some stuff going around about her. She looks mostly the same too, as she did in this. So like, although I don't know what Danny Putin looks like, so he might have changed significantly because he did kind of look kiddish in this too.
I don't think he's changed much at all.
Okay.
Because he was already older than because I think I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that Donald Glover was one of the younger actors in the show because even though they're playing different ages, I read somewhere that Allison Brie and Gillian Jacobs are actually the same age.
So yeah, I think when the series started, they were both 28, and Gillian Jacobs played Britta, who is 28, but Allison Brie played Annie, who was 18.
Yeah.
I mean, possible, because I mean, they were older actors playing younger characters, so it may not be that hard for them to just come right in and be like, "Hey, this is a year after, the end of season 6. Like this is what happened."
Yeah. So Donald Glover was 25 when the show started. So that would explain why he looks like he's aged the most out of all of them, because
yeah, he was the youngest.
Yeah. Because like Danny Pudi was 30, Joel McHale was 37, Yvette Nicole Brown was 38, Chevy Chase was 65, but he wouldn't come back in a movie because obviously they killed off that character.
Unless he faked it.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like it
easily. Well, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
One of the frozen sperm, so.
You did what?
I said he just wanted to give him all his frozen sperm. He needed an excuse, so he just faked to death.
Mm-hmm. But also, that's another interesting thing too.
That's how he died, though. That's how he died.
Yeah.
He faked.
But that's also another interesting thing too. Like I was looking at that. So, like I said, Joel McHale was 37 when the series started, and Yvette Nicole Brown was 38. So they, the actors were only a year apart. But even in the show, they're supposed to be the same age, which I think is kind of interesting. Because Yvette Nicole Brown does look, I don't know, maybe not necessarily older, but like acts older than Jeff does, because Jeff is very immature. I think it's more the maturity thing, more so than
it's like
looks.
I said at the beginning. She's the the family more mature.
Because I said, like, you kind of get the impression watching the show that she's older than the rest of but like I said, I think that's more maturity, because even in the show, like in universe, Jeff and Shirley are supposed to be the same age. But yeah, I think that is more to do with maturity more so than the actual
in
age.
Universe. How much older is Jeff than Britta?
Well, see, Jeff turns. Let's see, if Britta was supposed to be 28 when the show started,
Jeff turns 40 in season 5, so he was 35 in the first season.
Yeah, so 7 years older.
Okay, yeah, but because I mean, Jeff still is like he's still in his trying to act young. He hasn't settled down, kind of a thing. I was wondering how close in age Britta is supposed to be, because I mean, obviously she is in the same boat. Like she hasn't matured yet. She hasn't settled down. So, but if it's that big of an age gap, fair enough.
Well, it's like it's like in the episode about Troy's birthday when Britta and Jeff are arguing all night about what bar to go to, and then they find out they were talking about the same bar. Mm-hmm. And Troy's driving, slams on the brake, and said, "I've spent 2 years thinking that both of you knew more about life than me. Now I find out you two are just as dumb as me."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Troy's character development,
how it is,
that kind of stuff was really, really good.
A real moment though. As I get older and all, as cool as I thought everyone who was older than me was growing up, and then I get to their age, I'm like, man, it looked like there were a lot more to it than there really is, once I get to this age, like.
And that sentiment right
everyone's,
there. That's something right
Everyone's
there as
faking
well.
it till they make it.
But yeah, like that's something right there, especially like with Troy's moment right there. That like is so relatable with Troy because like Troy is supposed to be the I think it's season 2 he turns 21, so he's still relatively young throughout most of the series, and so he's kind of the young man trying to, I guess, kind of find his place, kind of find where he fits into life, and that's actually the whole point of why he decided to actually take the Pierce's boat. It's because he said he like he wants to be a man, I guess, and so that's like what I guess from the majority of people who watch the show, that kind of sentiment is very relatable. Because like, and I'm sure like a lot of stuff that like Shirley and Jeff go through and Britta go through is more relatable. But like, I can only speak to that because like I'm right in that point too where Troy is, so I can speak to that. But I'm sure like later in life too, like a lot of the stuff that Jeff and Shirley and Britta go through is very similar to that too. It's very relatable too.
We keep talking about how all over the place the show is, and how like off the wall it is. But we keep coming back to the fact that it's also really relatable.
That's the point I was trying to make earlier. It's like these really relatable characters in these really outrageous situations.
Called life.
Yeah. Also, I just figured I should let you know that we just crossed over the 2-hour mark, so
Yeah,
I don't think we're gonna be doing any other segment in addition to this. But yeah, did either one of you have anything you want to add to add on to this? Because I feel like we should be wrapping it up pretty soon here. Because I know y'all probably got stuff to do tonight, and
3 more hours.
3 more hours. Oh.
Yeah, we're gonna do a 5-hour podcast, David.
Who is going to listen to that? Like, I don't even know who.
I will listen.
I don't.
I will listen to it at work. I have nothing else better to do.
Like, I don't even know if anyone wants to listen to our normal podcast, let alone a 5-hour one.
That's
One of the podcasts I listen to just posted a 5.5-hour podcast in their feed.
Oh, maybe that is more.
We didn't. Yeah, see, David, other people are doing it, so we can do it too. We need to get trendy.
Yeah.
I mean, you can also edit this down under 2 hours.
Yeah, I can. Because I feel like there's a lot of dead air and stuff when we were
There's a
looking
lot
stuff
of
up.
rambling.
Yeah. Which
we gotta keep the.
Which I will say this probably. Yeah, I will say this probably will end up being like I don't know, probably about an hour and 55 minutes, because like I said, we're only about 2 hours, 2 minutes right now. Or who knows? It could be like right at 2 hours. Just depends on how much I end up cutting out. And I believe there's also a little bit of us talking before when I hit record. So yeah, but I mean, if that's all y'all got for as far as community goes, then I figure it's pretty much we should pretty much wrap things up here and move on to an outro.
Oh, hey, David, you emailed me something. Look at that.
Yeah, it was probably about the podcast. So,
Community podcast outline. Hey, I finally got it. From yesterday.
Good. Wesley. All right.
Hey, David.
And
you know, you could have ended this like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, we couldn't have.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave all this in because it's well, someone might think it's funny. It's not funny, but someone might think it's funny. Anyway, so like we did last time, Rob, go ahead and give us your outro.
All right. I listen to every episode, so let me see how I do. Well, explorers, that's all the time we have for today. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on Down the Rabbit Trail, or on Instagram at Down the Rabbit Trail YT. Something.